Rhodes University of Rhodes, from Rhodes University with us today. Just give me a second. So just admit this person. I'm going to be recording today's session. I am pleased informing you that should you have any concerns or unhappiness regarding the Puppy Act, that you please be informed that we cannot remove your name from the video recording, and it's your choice as to whether or not you feel that you want to be part of the webinar. It's just we really can't remove your name. So our apologies for that. That is outside our ability to actually do. Um,
But Mike, can you please start recording now, because already it has 1 hour 17 minutes. It might be too long. So if we can just start recording from the session itself, that would be
Sorry,
great.
I've been talking the whole time and my microphone is off. I only started recording now, Prof. The session started an hour and plus ago, but the recording only started now at 12 o'clock. So only from 12 o'clock the recording will be present. My apologies, I've been talking with my microphone off. Let me
No,
put my
Fatima,
video
your mic
on.
was on. We could hear you.
Oh, okay. Welcome everybody. So, yeah, thank you, Dr. Mr. Fouten, for doing this wonderful presentation for us. Just a short bio. He's from Rhodes University. He mainly teaches business and psychological research and data analysis. He has over 20 years practical experience working with large qualitative and quantitative data sets. His experience and expertise in quantitative data analysis has seen him serve as advisor and consultant for several organizations, including the Center for Disease Control, the Center for Justice and Criminal Prevention, and Epicenter, to mention a few. His research topic interests are the psychology of men and masculinities and the psychosocial drivers of complex trauma and substance abuse. So welcome, Mr. Fouten. We are really excited to have your webinar, to be able to listen to your webinar, and we feel privileged to have you present on the sites that you are in platform. I hand over to you. You can go ahead. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Fatima. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to get right into the presentation. Fatima asked me to do something on quantitative data analysis, but to keep it very basic was my instruction. So, whoops. So I'm just going to share the screen in a minute or so. But so the topics that we were speaking about today, I think you saw it in the post and the blurb that went around, the advert that went around. So I'm going to show you guys how to do data importing. So I was such a little time, but so I'm going to try my best to get through everything. So I also can't now gauge how many people are present here today are doing quantitative data analysis and what level of experience you have with working with data. So I'm going to do data importing, labeling data, but very, very basic labeling data. And then we're going to get into the more the nitty-gritty of data cleaning, checking in the assumptions, and then basic descriptive statistics, and then some more advanced, if there's time, some more advanced data analysis. Or yeah. So let me just share the screen. So what I'm going to do, the data set that I have as an example for today is data that I collected at the beginning of the second semester, the third term, with a third-year research course that I was teaching, and I just also practical experience for the students. So I asked them, I got this questionnaire that is called, what is this thing called? Research anxiety. And Fatima, so do I just go share screen?
Yes, sir. You can share screen.
All right.
There you go.
And so so I'm not going to show you the questionnaire, right? So it's an online questionnaire, and I ask students just to respond to it. And then this is what you get normally when it's an online questionnaire. So I'm going to speak about things when you're doing online questionnaires and when you're doing paper and pencil or face-to-face questionnaires, or what people call surveys, right? But survey is not the correct term to use. So here's what so what you normally want to do. So the online ways of collecting data, thanks to the COVID-19 and lockdowns and so on. So people had to come up with different ways of collecting data, and I collected data during the time also on another project. But so I gave this on Google Forms to students, asked them, had the questions. Like I said, it's a statistics anxiety questionnaire, and there's also a social anxiety questionnaire in here. And so we put this online on Google Docs. Students respond to it, and so this is normally what when they're done, you leave it open for a certain period of time. And this is normally the Excel output that you get from that, right? So here you'll see in the top row, you'll see there's all my labels. There's a timestamp of when it was, the date of when it was done, the time that the student accessed it, the student's email, and so on and so on, right? And then the different demographics related that I thought was necessary. So it wasn't a really serious thing. I just wanted to give them the experience of what happens when you also respond to a questionnaire, and then we use this as an example to analyze the data. In any case, when we are just, the other thing I'm going to show you with this is the number of people who responded, the number of students who responded. Fatima, just another thing, don't you also just want to monitor the comment section, and if there's anything that you want to bring to my attention, if people are asking things?
Definitely. I'm monitoring the comments for you. If there are
Thanks.
any questions, people should put it in the chat box. Do you want me to ask you the questions as we're proceeding, or would you like me to ask you the questions at the end?
No, I think just interrupt me as we go along. It's fine.
Great stuff. Thank you so
That's
much.
cool. Then I can see and when people are engaged. So yeah, you'll see there's 150 responses, but there's 149 people who are students who answer the questionnaire, right? Let me just show you. It's 150 on there. The number's 150 because the first row is for the labels that we have for the different questions. So what you want to do is, so normally when I work with data, I have the original and I keep the original. Whatever changes I save it as a different document. And I do this so that just in case anything goes wrong, that you have your original data set. And sometimes people might query your processes and your methods that you went and how you went about doing things. And you can show them, here's the original data set and here's what I worked with and so on. So you're keeping a record of what you're doing, right? For reliability and credibility and so on. So that's the original data set. You'll see there it says what is the social and statistics anxiety. I'm going to close this now because we don't need this anymore. And I have several Excel documents that I'm working on. And so here's the one that I'm working on. And so here you'll see, so what I've done, I've replaced all of those values, the responses there. Actually, let me just open it up again so I can show you. So I've replaced all the responses to the value. So here you'll see, so what is your what grade you expect to get, and then here you'll see the responses, right? Strongly agree, strongly disagree, moderately agree, and so on and so on. So those are then, all of those responses are then replaced with the numbers that are related to them, because you know what they say about quantitative research, superficially it has to do with numbers, right? So these are these numbers, right? These numbers represent something. So 1 is strongly agree, 7 strongly disagree, and so on. Then the other variables remain the same. So I'll be moving between this and the SPSS program now. So I'm just going to open then to show you how to import the data, or data importing, the first point in our discussion today. I'm going to open SPSS and then I'll import the data. But then I'll go back to the one that I've been using already, that is already set up. Otherwise, the setting up can take a bit of time. And also converting those. So when SPSS opens up, you'll see this dial-up box, and tells you information about what's new in SPSS and so on. But what you want to do, you can just close that. And so obviously your data, the data that you have collected has been downloaded and it's saved somewhere. It's clean. It's not cleaned. It's transformed. You've changed those labels that are in there to values, and that's all that is needed for that, right? before then you can start working. So now we're going to import the data. So all you need to do is you go to File. Once you've opened up SPSS, you go to File. It says Import Data. And then it gives you the different kinds of data files that you can import. So there's Excel, there's a CSV, there's SAS, and so on. There's different formats that it can import. And so we're going to say Excel. And so we're going to take this one here. So I just double clicked it and then it will. And so now this dialog box opens up. It will ask you certain options there. And so read variable name from the first row. So yes, I want that because it's already formatted in that way. I'm going to go back to that to speak about it. And then all you do is click OK. And there's your, so then my data is imported now, right? But so now there are several things that has to happen here in this before we can start working with this. So this is my, what is called your data view. And so here you'll see you have on top again, right here, top you'll have all your labels, and I just label them A for the different A, B, C, D, and so on for the different sections in the questionnaire, right? So different scales, I'll just give it, you can give them fancy names, but I'll just keep it simple. It's easier to work with in the program. All right, so here so that's your data view. Then also in SPSS, you have your variable view, which will have all your variables down there, and then you need to change them now. So here you'll see this is the type of measure that it is. And so what we want, so what all of them are from here, from B right down to, let me just see, to E8, they are all scale data, right? So that you need to change to scale, and that takes a bit of time to go through each of them individually. There you go. So what I do is I do a few, and then I just copy and paste it. I go, I'm showing you now.
Excuse me.
Yes.
There's a question. Cleaning data means and transformed means. The person is asking, can you please define for them what do you mean by cleaning data and transforming data more explicitly, please?
Okay, so cleaning data is basically, we're going to get to cleaning data, man. So cleaning data involves you checking whether there's missing data, whether there's people who have been unengaged. So I'm getting to cleaning data. And so the transforming data is just is changing those the options that we saw, the labels, the strongly agree, those string answers to numbers and values and so on. So that is transforming the data into something that is usable, and then data cleaning is what we're going to be getting, what I'll be getting into, looking at missing data, looking at outliers and unengaged responses. So that is cleaning data. Does that answer the question for the person, Fatma?
Yes, sir.
Right. So right now I'm not doing data cleaning yet, right? I'm making it, I'm setting up the SPSS file so that it's something that is workable. I'm just showing you shortcuts also. All right, so I just copied and pasted that. Copied that, and so now I'm pasting it. Did it even copy now? Let me just go back. But I mean, all of that. So setting up your SPSS file takes a bit of time. But once that is done, the analysis goes very quickly. This doesn't want to work. But in any case, so that is what you do. So I've imported the data now. Oh, and then so I want to label. So here you'll see here's the variable name, and then what I do. So fortunately, it's very compatible with Word and with Excel. You can copy and paste from either Word or Excel, right? And so then you can just copy and paste that. I'll show you. Where's that? So here I have, so here's all the variable, the labels, so the different questions. And in that original file, let me just go back there. So you see in this original file, right? Here you'll see in the first row, it has all those labels. Now I don't work with that. I can't work with that. So I changed. So what I did was I added another row there. Insert, I added another row, and I gave them the different labels that you saw, the A, B, C's, and so on, A1 to 7, B 1 to 36, and so on. All right, but then I cut this, I take this out here, paste it in another tab, in another file in Excel, like I did here. Where is that now? Like I did there. So I pasted a transpose, and so all you need to do is from here you can just Control C. Okay, in a second, let me just do it again. So I'm going to go from your 6. I'm just going to scroll down. Control C, and then I'm going to copy it into which one was your 6 now? Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm just going to paste it here. I think. So sometimes in spaces, I want you to highlight everything before it's going to copy and paste. Before it's going to paste, man. And so now I just Control V there. Come now. Did you go back? Sorry. Where is it? Control C. Just try this. Yeah, you see, I knew that. Let me just undo. You need to highlight them all. Come. All right, it's now not working with me. But so what you need to do, you need to highlight highlight. And I didn't check where that variable was when I'm trying to go a bit fast because there's a bit to cover. In any case, we don't need that. So what it's going to look like when you have your labels is going to look like this. And the other thing that's not in the in this one, I'm gonna scroll right over. Yes. See what mess it made now. Sorry about that. Come go back. Okay, I'm just gonna close this one quickly.
So,
No.
Mr. Fouten, just to indicate to everybody, this is normally what happens when you are working with your data set.
No.
All the strangest things
No.
happen.
Doesn't normally happen, Fatima. The thing is, I had to check. I didn't check where. So what SPSS wants you to do, right? It has to be the same amount of rows, man. So I didn't check where it was. So I had to check. It had to be. If I copy that, let me show. Let me do it again. I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to do it again. Just watch this.
Okay.
So we need. So I need to paste it in. All right. And there's no. I didn't put in a label there also. Let me just show you this before I go on. So yeah. So in this file there, so there's my label, right? This doesn't exist in the Excel file. This is something that I've added to if you see here, here's the original, right? So that is something that I added so that I can know what I'm dealing with when I'm cleaning the data and there are issues. Then I know exactly what person that has the issue, which person is not responding, which person is an outlier, so that I can remove that individual from the data set, man. And so this doesn't normally happen. So if you just let me just start over again. Not start over again, but let me just show you that it does work. I won't lie to you. And the other stuff really goes quickly. This part of it takes a bit of time. Setting everything up takes a bit of time, unfortunately, but it also helps you to familiarize yourself with your data, with your variables, and so on. So it's a good thing. And then after that, once you know what you're doing, the analysis goes quick sticks. Let me just try this again. So I'm going to import data. I'm going to say Excel. It's going to be this one here. Let's give it a second. Read variable name from first row. Yes. I'm going to say OK. And so there it is. So that's my data view again. So if I go to my variable view, you see here are those variable, just the names that I gave, but here's the column for the label, right? I'm just going to give some more space there. Let me just see. If we go back here, what's how this is? Let me see, transformed. So 1, 2, 3. Let me just see 1, 2, 3. So your 6 would be the third variable. And I wanted this. Let me just go back. I'm just going to do it over, right? So you can see that it is working. So I'm going to go your 6. So just remember this timestamp email address, right? Timestamp email address. I'm just again going to go Control C. And we go back here. That's the blank one. So is it data view? So there's a variable. So it's the 1, 2, 3, the fourth one. So I want to be in the fourth one. I'm going to click there. I'm going to scroll right down. We'll say Control V. Ah, voila. You see, Fatima? That's the issue there. It's not a problem. It works always. Just you need to, it has to be correctly lined up. Otherwise, it won't work. All right. So just because I went fast, I thought it would just take as is, but it has to be correctly lined up. And so there's all your labels now. So now everything, so no, everything is not yet set up. So what you now need to do is add your values also in here, right? So the values here, you would say what one is. One is agree. And you're going to say add, and two is disagree. Disagree, add, and so on and so on. So now you need to, oh, and the good thing about that is once you do one, did I say add? Once you do one, you can just again copy the rest of it, copy and paste the rest of it, and that is then the setup of it, right? So that will then be your the setup of just the basic setup of it, the data view and so on. All right, but so we're not going to use this. We're going to use the one. So the thing I wanted to show you is that, yeah, you don't see any values in them. These aren't changed yet into the scales, but in the other one, it is there. I don't want to waste your time by going through all of that, right? So I'm just going to close this. I'm going to say yes, no, and then, so here we go. So here's what we have worked out already. So yeah, this is exactly, it's the same data, the same thing happening. But yeah, you'll see that, what happened now? So yeah, you'll see where will you. So, but yeah, you'll see that there is we have our values in there, right? And there's what all the values mean. So, and some of them are reverse code, also reverse coded. But that's the basics of it, right? That's the setting up of the data. So that is data importing and data labeling. Only way to learn this is to mess around, to play around with it, and so on.
Reverse coding meaning?
Reverse coding is so sometimes in questionnaires you want people to answer in a certain way, and then you ask a negatively phrased question just to see whether people are engaged with the questionnaire. And let's say, for instance, you say I like sweet things, right? Then you say strongly agree. Then later on, if I say you don't like sweet things, then you must say strongly disagree. That is to detect whether people are engaged, whether people are paying attention to what they're answering, and so on. So that then you reverse. Reverse code. So most questionnaires have reverse scoring. Yeah, I can even show you if you want to see the questionnaire, but that's not important for now. Are there any other questions before? So that is in data importing, data labeling, right? And before we go to the data cleaning, what's also called case screening, and looking for missing data. Fatima, are there any questions so far?
There's one question. What if I
Sure.
do not want to import data, but want to insert in on SPSS and analyze from there?
Wait, I don't know. Insert what in SPSS?
I Well, Eldon, I think you were explaining earlier that you use the online link to collect your data, and then you downloaded the file as an Excel file, yes?
Yes, yes.
And then because that is the data format, can you download the SPSS formatted file from that electronic link?
Google, I don't think Google has that set up, man. Google Forms. I tell you, the only thing that has that, I think I'm under correction, is a RedCap might be able to work with SPSS files. But
So then,
SPSS files is SPSS is a private thing, man. So it's expensive. It's not open source.
so I think for Danielle, you have to import from an Excel spreadsheet into SPSS. But as Alran showed, it doesn't take a lot of time. It 3 clicks and it's there.
Mm.
So
Does the
if you collected data using paper-based method and you want to insert it directly into SPS, I think that can happen.
Yes, but that is not also advisable, man. So even
Okay.
if I collect paper-based,
Mm,
so not everybody has SPSS, but
mm,
everybody who has a computer has Excel on it. So
mm-hmm.
I outsource to people. I say, don't you want to capture this data? I'm going to pay you 12 Rand a page to capture data for me and so on. And so people capture it in Excel and then I import from there.
Okay.
But what's the person who's asking? Do they want to ask the question directly to me or are they happy to?
Daniel, can you maybe ask the question more clearly
Yes,
than?
yes,
Okay.
I'm here. What I wanted to say was that I understand your logic of that I have to import the data, but what if I actually have the data now? I want to insert it. Can't I open a data sheet on the SPSS where I actually insert it? Then therefore I analyze from there while
Yeah.
I'm within the program. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so you can capture your data directly into SPSS also. But like I say, not everybody has access to SPSS, and if you can get other people to do that for you, and you just import from there, then that can work. And I also know places like the HRC has what's called SPSS double take. So what they do, they have two people capturing the same data sets just so that they can guarantee that there's credibility in the data capture and there's no errors in the data. So if anything happens, if one captures a 2 for one variable and another person captures a 4, then SPS is going to highlight that and flag that and say, well, hang on, here's the same question but two different values are captured here. Don't you want to? You need to check this then. And that is called SPSS double take. That is specifically for data capturing purposes. But other than that, I think Excel works fine. And with the online things, we circumvent those kind of problems of data capturing because the data is there for us already. And also, you'll see there's hardly any missing data. Also, Daniel, does that help, Daniel?
Yes, it's fine. I understand. It's fine. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go on to checking for so the next stage is then your data cleaning, right? So but just let me scroll across. So now you'll see there's all my variables. There's no values in any of them, but sometimes there can be oversights. There can be things that shouldn't be there. There should only be values from 1 to 7 for certain variables and 1 to 5 for others and so on. So you want to check whether all of that is correct, right? And then there's different ways to do this, but I found the easiest way to do that is, and I'm going to go a bit slow now, so people, or I don't know, people might just tell me, to do it again, or what did you do now? And so just stop me. So I'm going to go analyze. When I want to do this, I'm going to go descriptive statistics. And so now under descriptive statistics, you'll see there's several options, right? And so we basically going to just use for the session, we're going to use the frequencies tab here and then the descriptives, all right? We're not going to use all of the others. So in the first instance, what you want to do is go descriptives, go frequencies, and so now it brings up all your variables, right? And so what's good about, so when you're in this window, you can just say display variable names. And so now it displays those variable names as you have them there, all right? And then the different formats of it. So I'm just going to I'm not going to put in the label. I'm going to put in, let's see, as much as we can. We can put in everything, but we don't need everything for now. I'm just going to put in till there, till E. And so now we have some options here also, right? So here it asks us so we just want to check in the first instance, have everybody, so there's 149 people. Do we have 149 responses for each of them, right? And what are those responses? What do they look like? Is there anything peculiar about them? Is the value more than what is supposed to be in that particular response? All right, so we have statistics. There's the options that we have. I'm not going to check anything there now. We have charts that we can look at, bar charts, pie charts, histograms. Again, not going to do any of those things. It justifies for us to say to put them all in, and what I'm just doing we're just eyeballing to see that there's responses for everything. And so what normally happens is, so here's a whole, on your left-hand side here, you'll see there's a lot of different outputs, but none of those are necessary for now. All that we are interested in is the top statistics table here. And so here you'll see the different variables. So for sex, there's 149 responses. There's nothing missing. And so we can go down the list and see for each of those variables your race and nationality, 159 responses. So there should be 159 responses for each of them with nothing missing. If it happens that we have a missing value, then we need to go and find that variable. And how we find that variable, we look at what this variable is, what's the name of the variable. We go down that list and see what is missing, and we try and what we can do is either delete that person or we can impute values for that individual, right? So depending on the type of variable it is, we can either replace the missing value with a median score or with a mean score. If it's an ordinal variable, we'll replace it, the missing value, with a median score for ordinal variables. And when it's continuous variables, we will replace the value with a mean score instead, right? And so, but here, fortunately, with online responses, you hardly get any missing values, but you do get people who aren't engaged, right? And so we don't get missing values because we can label it. You can set a setting on the Google Docs as a must response before it goes to the next question or before it goes to the next page. So it's something that you have to answer. And I'm sure if you guys answered any kind of online applications, you came across this, right? Where it requires a response from you. It's normally marked with an asterisk, which means you need to respond to this. All right, so now we can see in our data set, there's no missing values. So there's no missing data.
Excuse me, ma'am. Please request everybody other than the presenter, could you switch off your video camera as to save bandwidth, please?
All right, Fatima, so that is then looking for missing data. Now, getting missing data again, you go analyze. It's easy, descriptives, frequencies, and that's all you need. Input the variables that you want, and it will give you. Oh, sorry. Another thing I wanted to say, when working with SPSS, so you saw what I did, right? So I went up, I moved all the variables that I wanted, that I'm interested in, to the right hand to this variable window here. And I clicked OK, and it brought up these outputs tables here, right? But what people don't teach you is that a better way to do this, right? And so when you're working, we don't always have the time to work consecutive days on data. Sometimes we have to work one day, a few hours, and come back to it, and then we tend to forget what's happening. So instead of clicking OK, I would recommend that always what you do is you click paste. And what happens is that a syntax window will then open up, and so you want to save the syntax file. So this is going to keep a record of everything that you've done from beginning to end of the process, right? And so you want to mark this. You can label this what it is you're doing. So I'm going to say CISA, and I'm going to put a line under there just to keep it distinct. And then I'm going to put another line. And so even from here, and so the next thing we're going to do is art layers and so on. So a good practice is to get used to the saving your syntax file, right? Oftentimes also if you're doing a master's thesis or PhD thesis, then examiners sometimes want to see also your syntax file with the data so they can run all the analysis again. So even from here, I can run the same analysis. Let me show you. And so when you do it from here, you highlight everything, and then you click that run button. Now you see it's going to repeat, right? So here's one set, but it's now going to duplicate this the output table. So you just click run, and there we have a duplicate of everything that we do. You see here's the first set, there's the second set, and it's identical things, right? And it's identical things, but that is good practice. It's something that you want to do, that you want to get used to doing, right? Run that syntax file and keep that syntax file. And so to get that syntax file, instead of clicking OK, you just click paste instead. And so then you have your syntax file. And then later on, in a week's time, in a month's time, if you forgot what you've done, you just go to your syntax file. It will have everything there, all the details of what you did, all the or even if you transform and if you create new variables and so on. So that would be
Sorry for my very stupid question, but where would I find the syntax file if I save it? Do I have to save it in a particular folder that I
No.
name?
Yes. So from here, so you get so when you do editing, right? Instead of clicking OK, click paste. Then it's going to open up your syntax file, and then from there you can save your syntax file and then just open it at a later date when you need it, when you're going to use it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
I
your
can
syntax
save
file,
it in anywhere.
you save it as the same way you save everything else.
Okay.
All right. So you'll see I'm going to minimize this, and every time I'm going to run I'm going to do something, I'm going to say paste, and then it's going to come here, and then I have to actually run from here, and running from here, just highlighting it and clicking this play button. But I'm going to minimize that in the meantime. All right, so here we have lots of outputs now, which is unnecessary. It's duplicates, it's the same stuff, but that's fine. So the next thing we need to do, so we saw now that there's no missing data. We didn't have to replace any missing values, and there are ways of replacing missing values, right? But I'm thinking we're going, time is not ticking fast. Let me just go to another important thing is to look at unengaged responses. And so there's two ways that there's three ways that you can detect whether somebody has been unengaged, and it's important to detect people who are unengaged, right? Because they're gonna skew the data in a certain way. All right, so unengaged in the questionnaire itself is a strategy that you can use. So you could put in a question amongst all of the questions that you have. You put in a question that says, if you are still paying attention, respond in a certain way. So if you're still paying attention, answer agree to this question. All right. And so if a person then doesn't answer agree to that question, then you know they haven't been paying attention, and then you'll be entirely within your right to then discard that person from the study, right? To not use that person's responses because it demonstrates that they haven't been engaged. So the one strategy is to use to hide a question in your questionnaire that asks specifically if you're still paying attention to respond in a certain way. Another way to do this is, especially with this online, with Google Docs and so on, the RedCap and all of these platforms that you can use, is to have time elapsed. So here I didn't do time elapsed. I just recorded the time of when they did it, but I didn't do time elapsed. So you can set time elapsed, right? So then you can see if a person spent a minute on the questionnaire, then it's unlikely that they've really engaged with the questionnaire. All right. So you take a reasonable amount of time to read through the questions, to answer them in a certain way, and so on. So you determine how much is a reasonable amount of time and how long your questionnaire is, and so on. All right, how many items you have to answer. So I would strongly recommend that you set time elapsed for online questions so that you can easily detect who hasn't been engaged. If people spend too little time on this, no, these people are wasting my time, they haven't engaged, they haven't answered, and so on. But statistically, how you want to do this is you can go into Excel, which we are in now. So I'm going to show you how to, in Excel, not in SPSS, in Excel, how to determine whether somebody has not been engaged in your questionnaire. So not answering truthfully or honestly in your questionnaire. Or I don't know why that is yellow. I made it yellow for a reason. I can't recall now. Anyway, so can I move this somewhere else? So in Excel, how to determine unengaged responses is by, so you click in the column right next to, so yeah, I freeze pane also, right? So if you scroll down, that first row is going to stay there. I often have to remind myself about rows and columns. So in this what do you call this? In this column, in the column right next to that, the variable F9 is what you want to. You're going to go. You put in the equal sign, and you're going to type in. So what I'm looking for is for the standard deviation P. All right. So that one there, standard deviation P. And so I'm going to highlight from where I want this. Where do we want it from? We want to go from this variable here. And we're just going to highlight them all. Oops, that's too far. I actually don't want F for now because F is a different kind of variable, just to E. And there you go. So it's an enter. So now what you're looking for, right? So this now calculates the standard deviation for all of those responses, right? And if you identify a standard deviation of 0, then it's indicative of somebody that hasn't been engaging with it. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm also just going to highlight this right down so that it copies that same formula for all of it. And then we're going to, all right. And so then I'm also want to just reduce the decimal spaces. I think 3 should be fine. All right, so now what we're looking for in this is unengaged responses, right? I'll show you now. So what I also am going to do is I'm going to filter this. I'm going to sort this. Let's go smallest to largest. Yes. All right. So here we see there's a 0.8 something. All right. It's not entirely 0. But probably this person hasn't engaged in this. And so now it's easy for us to see who this person is. And we can also go through the responses. If you look at all those responses here on if, then you see they've responded 5, 4, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, and so on. And let's look at some more. Yeah. All right, so it seems that this person wasn't really engaged, all right? And so now we know, so we can go and see. So we see that this person is, the label that they have is 78. So in SPSS, we would then find this. I'll show you. Let me just move that. So in SPSS, you don't want to make the mistake, right? You need to look at the label. What label was that? 78. So this individual here, 78, you want to look at the label. So that person there, what's his name? So it's a black male. Where was 19M is the student number, let's just see. You see the same person there. There's 19M. Right, same individual there that is in the SPSS file. So what you want to do is you want to maybe delete this person from the data set. So not analyze his information. All right. So that is the third way, the statistical way to detect whether people have been unengaged in answering the questionnaire. All right. So yeah. So you're looking for values that is really 0, and the absolute value I think would be for this would be 1. If I should round it off further. So it's not really 0, but you can see that that person hasn't been engaged. All right, so that is, so what I did was, again, I typed in equals and then standard deviation, and then you define standard deviation P, and then just find that range, and then it will give you that information there, right? And so any value that is 0, that would be indicative of a person not engaging, you'd want to delete that. So the next thing that you want to do is then check for outliers, right? And so this we're going to do. And so if you've detected anybody, you're going to have to delete them in your SPSS file, all right? But I'm not going to delete that individual now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check for outliers, right? So outliers are responses that are just not following your normal distribution, that falls outside of that normal bell-shaped curve distribution. So to detect, and so what we're going to do now is to detect, so you get multivariate outliers and we get univariate outliers, right? So I'm firstly going to look at our univariate outliers. So to do this,
excuse me, Mr. Fouten,
yes.
Colleen, maybe do you want to ask the question, then he can help clarify you?
Go ahead, Colin.
Oh yes. The way you were cleaning the data on the Excel. So the standard deviation, if it's less than 0, you said it's actually might be an indication of not paying attention. So anything that is actually above 1 is acceptable.
Excuse me, say again. That last part.
The standard deviation, anything above 1, therefore it's acceptable. Is that the logic?
Yes. So what we're detecting there, it's not true standard deviation, right? It's just standard deviation in responses, man. So if that standard deviation is 0 in the response, then it means there's no variation in how the people answer the questionnaire. That is actually what it looks at. So that standard deviation in Excel looks at variation in how people responded to the questionnaire. So if there's no variation, that means they just type 3 for all the answers or 4 for all the answers and so on. There's no variation in the responses is what that does, what that technique does in Excel. Is that clear?
Noted. Thank you.
All
Yes,
right.
very clear. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. So
Okay,
that
so
looks at, yeah. Yes, Fatima?
Marlene asks, do you do data cleanup before or after inserting and uploading your dataset to SPSS?
Wait, you can only clean the data after it's in, so you do it simultaneously, so you have to work between the two, man. So all the time, what you're doing in Excel, you need to now make sure it's also happening in SPSS. So, but it's easier to clean the data in Excel than what it is in SPSS. So what happens is it's both, Fatima. So what I do is I detect all the errors in SPSS, but I do the changes in Excel. So this SPSS file is not my final SPSS file, right? It's my data cleaning Excel file, SPSS file. Until I come to a stage where I'm satisfied that everything is sorted out, that there's no missing values, there's no outliers, and so on. And now I know, okay, this is now clean, this is clear, and so all the time you have to move between the two. So do the checks in SPSS, do the cleanup in Excel.
Okay, then the other question is, do you have preset criteria for keeping or deleting a participant's response from the analysis?
Wait, say
Some
again, do I
sort
have what?
a preset criteria for keeping or deleting a participant's responses from the analysis.
Okay, yes. So if a participant missed like 10% of the answers in the questionnaire, then you can delete them. If they've showed unengagement in the questionnaire, then you can delete them. So if there's a lot of blanks, if there's like 10% missing, so 10% they haven't answered 10% of the questionnaire, then you don't have to use it. So that is just the standard that people use. So if they don't respond to 10% of the questions, then it's pointless of having them in the analysis.
The person says, perfect, thank you.
Alrighty, thanks. Where was I doing? Outliers. All right, so for outliers, we're going to go back here, analyze, descriptives. We're going to back to frequencies again. So we have all those variables inputted there already, right? And so now, so here we're gonna do something else. I'm using the same variables. I have all that same variables. Yes. So I'm using all the same variables, right? But now I'm going to do something else. You see, earlier we just clicked OK, or we just clicked paste, but now we're going to ask for statistics, and so now I'm going to show you something else. So here we want to ask for specifically. Let me just see again. Let me just go back. So there's different options, right? There's charts, there's formats, and so we're not going to need any of those things. Specifically, what we want here is to look at the skewness and kurtosis is what we're going to ask for, right? Later on, we're going to need standard deviations and variances and so on, but not now, and also mean scores, right? Central tendencies, but we're not going to need this now. We're still just busy cleaning the data, all right? So we're going to ask skewness, kurtosis. We're going to say continue, and again, I'm going to say paste so that we have it in our syntax file, so we're going to have it for later on. And so I'm just going to highlight from here. Same thing is going to happen. I'm just going to click the run button, the play button. And so there's all that outputs again. So these are a new set of outputs, right? But what I want is, this here, frequency table. Can I just move this? So here you see, here we have our skewness and our kurtosis, right? Our skewness values, the standard error associated with the skewness, kurtosis, standard error associated with the skewness. All right, so what you want to do here is, again, copy this. I just clicked in it, right-clicked, said copy. And so now I'm just gonna chuck it into an Excel file. I'm gonna say, give me a new tab, and then I'm just gonna paste it here. I don't like working in the first column. I'm just going to say paste it there, and so there's that output, right? So I'm putting it in Excel because again, Excel is just a bit better. Sorry, let me minimize that in dealing with this. So now you want to do two things here, right? I'm gonna highlight skewness, and I'm pressing Control, so I'm highlighting just the two, right? And so what you want to do here, so here you're looking for under skewness and kurtosis, right? You want to look for values that exceeds 3, that is more than 3 or less than -3, right? If there's any values that are more than 3 or less than -3, then it means that it's indicative of data being skew or kurtotic, all right? And so the easy way to do this is just, so I highlighted them, and then I'm going here in Excel, I'll go conditional formatting. I'm going to go highlight cell rules, and I'm going to say greater than 3. Highlight that for me. I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to say go highlight cell rules less than. I want less than -3, and I'm going to say, all right, highlight those for me. All right, so you can just go through it, eyeball it for yourself, but this is just a quick and easy way to identify variables that might be skew and kurtotic. All right, and so here we see that this variable here, what is the name of this variables? I plan to complete my statistics assignments. I plan to work hard is more than 3. And we have another one. We have a plan to study. Let me say, I plan to study hard for every statistics test. I plan to attend every statistics class. It's very interesting. And all right, so now we've only identified, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So about 4 variables that are skew and kurtotic. All right. And so now that's important to report also in your file. And so now once we identify that, what do we do about that? Just watch here. So let me show you. So you also want to, so what this skewness and kurtosis says that there are certain responses within this related to this question that they are really outliers. There are people that are not responding in a way that everybody else has responded to this. All right. And so now just watch now what I'm going to do in what do you call this, SPSS again. All right. So to detect where those people or where those are, who it is, we can go simply, we go to graphs. We go to legacy dialogues. We go to box plots. We opt for simple box plot, and we say summaries of separate variables. So not summaries for the group, summaries of separate variables. It's simple. We're going to say define. And so there we go. So what we want to do is we're going to say our label. We're going to use the label here as the case label, obviously. And now we need to find those variables, right? What were those variables again? I'm just going to use this to what grade. So it's a 2 after grade. What grade do you expect to get? So it's a 2 after. What grade do you expect to get? Where's that thing now? Yeah, what grade do you expect to get? So these two. I'm going to put them in there. Oh, and let me just do this also. So let's take ones that didn't have any issues, right? I'm just going to take 2 that didn't have any issues. So these 2 we saw that there are issues. Let me just see, do we need to check anything on the options? Nope, we don't need to check anything in the options. We can just go and say, so I'm not going to say paste again, right? I'm just going to say, okay. Unless, do you want me to do paste? Just to see what happens. Yeah, let's do paste. I'll take silence as agreement. All right, so there's that again. So remember, you would just also want to put in labels for everything here, right? I'm going to run it from there. And voila, let me just move this again so I can see what's happening. Fatima, are we doing for time? Okay.
You're almost out of time, but I really like your demeanor. It's entertaining to listen to you present. Yeah.
Well, listen, let me just finish. So here you see here are those two variables, right, where we had outliers. And so here it identifies who those respondents are, who are possible outliers. So you can identify them there. So this is what it looks like when it's all. This is not really normally distributed, but so this is skewed to the left and skewed to the right in this instances, right? So this is skew, but it's not kurtosis. There's really not. This is still acceptable, although there's a big spread in the data. It's still usable, right? But with those other two variables, it was clearly more than 3 and less than 3, and so therefore issues with those. And so here we identify where those issues are, who the respondents are, who are issues. So we would want to go to each of those to 149, to 110, to 81, 144, 96. So we'd want to check what's happening with this. Maybe it's just, but it's not wrongly captured because it's not paper and pencil. It's so it's people who haven't been giving the full. It's outliers. They're not answering truthfully in a truthful manner. So you'd want to delete all of those from there, and so that's how you detect. So I did that again. I went graphs. I went legacy dialogues. I went box and whisk, box plots, and there you find them. And so that's how you do that. Then the other things that we needed to do was to check for the Mahalanobis distance and to further explore the skewness and kurtosis of this. But now we're out of time. Maybe we can do, I don't know what we're going to do, Fatima. Is there?
Just hold on a minute. For
Sure.
the people that are currently on the webinar, can you indicate by sending a heart if you're okay with having the presenter continue, so that I can see how many hearts there are, and if we need to continue. If there's not many hearts, then we can stop.
But yeah, Fatima, I also don't have beyond 1 o'clock, man.
Okay. So what do you suggest we do?
I'm happy to, if people have any questions, if they want guidance, then they're welcome to email me. We give them my email address. They must just indicate that they've attended this webinar and what it is that the question is, and I'm happy to meet with to chat to people.
Okay, so E Fouten, right?
Yes, you have my email.
University.ac.za.
At RU, no?
Yes, at ru.ac.za. Is there a
Yes.
dot between your E and your F?
Yes.
There we go. That's the email address. So the people in the audience are saying they also appreciate how interactive your analysis was, and that you definitely more engaging than they would have thought. And yeah, they enjoyed listening to you. So did I. I think it's nice when you're listening to somebody and they're not all straight-faced. Yes, dear.
Fatima, can I, if people are interested, if I can do, so how are they finding this? This is helpful. So this is checking for outliers now, right? Skewness and kurtosis and so on. I can just jump to the Mahalanobis distance. That is really a multivariate outliers test. And there's some nice tricks in that. And that is really, unless they want me to do basic descriptive stats quickly. Can I have an indication of what it is?
The basic descriptive stats is what is actually needed for this particular presentation.
Okay, great. I'll do that quickly then while we still have time. All right. No worries. So what I want to draw you guys' attention to, right? So here's all the questions and the responses. So these are all the items. These are called items. A question is called an item in statistical analysis. All right. So those items really means a lot to us, but what we ultimately want are these things here. So these are all of those responses that people have. They basically, when you calculate them, then it becomes a construct, and it is these constructs that we tend to work with, that we want to analyze. All right. So we have the construct affect, cognitive competence, value, interest. So value has to do with whether they think statistics is valuable or not, whether they're interested in it, whether they're going to put in their own effort to study and do work, and whether they think it's difficult or not. So these really are the 6 constructs, and these are our important variables. So they can either be independent or dependent variables, depending on how you want to use them. All right. So ultimately, what you want to do is, so I'm just going to do some basic descriptive analysis using those important variables. So you're going to go descriptives. Now, instead of going to frequencies like we did previously, we're going to go now to descriptives, really. Right? And so here, what you want to do is, your age is probably an important variable. Blah, blah, blah. Your age, gender is also probably important, but gender is not going to be here because it's not a scale, but we can change it also. But what we want here are these variables. So I'm just highlighting all of them. I'm moving them there. And so now we're going to say options. And so now we say we're going to ask for descriptive statistics. We ask for the means. We ask for the standard deviations. We ask for the minimum, the maximum, and so on. Right? And here again, we can ask for skewness and kurtosis, but we're not going to. Okay, let's ask for that. Doesn't really matter. Standard deviation. We can also ask the standard error of the mean, and so on. So all of these things are useful. So these might just be descriptive stats, right? But they are important when you're doing your analysis. Then they are going to mean something to you. And also when you write up your results, you need to report also standard error of the mean and so on. But I'm just going to leave it for now. So let's just continue with that. And so here again, I can say paste, but never mind. I'm just going to say okay. And so here's our basic descriptive statistics of, and so here you don't see any tables. There's nothing like that. You have to do something else to ask for it. But this is all that people are interested in, right? So here we'll see again, there's 149 respondents throughout for all of those variables. You can see the minimum age here is 19. So these are responses for all. That's the minimum responses for each. That's the maximum respondent for each. The maximum age is 27 in this third year class. The mean statistic for age is 21.77, so about 21, 22. And here's your mean for each of these, for each of the scaled variables. Those are your mean scores. There's your standard deviations, and here again are your skewness and kurtosis, right? And so here again, you want to look for values that are more than 3. So here we can see that effort is a bit skew and kurtotic, right? So effort, there's the signs that effort, the variable effort is a bit skew and kurtotic also. So you would have to do you'd have to resolve that in some way. Either identify where those problems are and replace it, and recalculate certain things. There's certain issues for that variable, but all the other variables seems to be fine. So that is your basic description. Fatima, is everybody still here?
Yes, we're still here. There
All right.
are 37 of us still.
Okay. So listen, that's your basic descriptives, right? So if you want to do something else like compare means and ANOVA or anything, then I can run something quickly just so that you guys can see what's happening. Or your univariate analysis, multivariate analysis, always good. What do you want to do?
Any requests?
Let's see. I'm going to do multivariate analysis quickly for you guys. So our dependent variables are going to be, we can put in, what was the problem now?
If I can just ask you, where did you get your variables affect, cognitive, competence, value, interest? Where did you find those variables?
So I mentioned it briefly. So that is, if you look at all of these variables here, so these are all the items. So you need to, so here's the questionnaire. The questionnaire normally tells you what you need to do. All right. So here's the questionnaire. The questionnaire will tell you how to score it, right? So it will tell you if you want to calculate, you need to add the question 3, 4, 15, 18, 19, 28, and you'll get the variable affect. And
so that's a scale for affect.
Yes.
And then you add all the, I understand.
Yes. So you don't add really, you compute it, and so the SPSS does that for you. You just put it into, and so you compute it into a new variable, and then that does that. And you'll see here the asterisks. I was speaking earlier about reverse scoring. So there you'll see reverse. So you need reversing the responses to the negative. What added indicator would be an asterisk. So you see if anything that has an asterisk in here. So now you know I have to go and negatively score that. I need to you see.
Okay. So people need to be very careful about what questionnaire they use, and the questionnaire needs to be very clear about how to score the various scales that you are measuring for your study.
Yes. Okay. Otherwise, big problems.
Like what?
Man, if you have problems with the questionnaire, then you can't make the claims that you want to make about your data analysis. So therefore, your questionnaire has to be sound, has to be reliable and a valid questionnaire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think how
I think
I can
we've
take
achieved
one or two
we've
questions.
achieved quite a lot in this 1 hour. I think you've brought together a lot of these things that are normally left undone in a statistics course, because in statistics you don't always do the electronic calculations. So I think this has been extremely useful. Yeah, people have said it's a very informative session and they're saying thank you. You want to take a question? Are there any questions?
I can take
It's
one or two
1:05.
questions. Yeah.
People tend to be a bit shy on the platform, but yeah, it's 1:05.
Yeah.
I think this has been useful.
If I can ask something, but I know this is definitely possibly not related to what we were doing here. It's just I'm just gonna deviate a little bit if that's fine.
That's fine with me.
So what do you normally use the descriptive statistics, like your skewness and stuff like those? So does the direction of the skewness in a way have an indication in terms of give you an indication in terms of what kind of inferential statistics you can use? Meaning that you'll have to have those before you can, for example, if it's negatively skewed or positively skewed, then therefore, is there certain inferential statistics which I can use? Is there others which I cannot use?
Yeah.
So if it's positive, I can use certain ones. If it's negatively skewed, I can use other ones. Is there such? I'm just deviating. I'm sorry. I just want
No, that I don't think you're deviating. I think it's a relevant question. As far as my readings has gone, that it's not dependent on the direction of the skewness really. So it's only if your data is not normally distributed that you would use a different data analysis. Say for instance, if you are doing say if you're doing an ANOVA, and so there are certain assumptions that the data has to meet, and one of those assumptions that your data is normally distributed. And so now when the data is not normally distributed, it doesn't matter the direction of the skewness, you're going to have to use the non-parametric alternative to the ANOVA, which is then in the Kruskal-Wallis test. But other statistical analysis like the multivariate test and so on, they are robust enough to handle departures from normality. So it's only with the t-test and with the ANOVA that there are non-parametric alternatives that you can use. So with the t-test, you'd use the Mann-Whitney U test would be the alternative to the t-test, and the Kruskal-Wallis would be for the ANOVA. And is there another one? So there's Mann-Whitney U, there's Kruskal-Wallis. I can't think of another one. I almost feel like there must be another one. But so yes, so the to answer your question shortly, the direction of the skewness doesn't matter. As far as I know, as far as my reading have shown, I've never come across a criteria where the direction will determine what it is. It's just whether it's normally distributed or not. And in other analysis, you would use bootstrapping also. If your data is not normally distributed, you would use bootstrapping and other post hoc analysis to compensate for that lack of normality, for the violation of the assumption. Yeah, so really, it's not the direction of it. Yeah. So Fatima, I think I'll end there. But speaking on that normal distribution, in reality, it's difficult to get data that is normally distributed, and so therefore a lot of these programs are very robust. They can handle violations, not dramatic or drastic violations, but marginal violation to the assumption of and condition of normally distributed data.
So with that, it's 1:09. Thank you so much, Mr. Fouten. I know that you have gone and put a lot of effort with all this, thinking through how you're going to explain things to us as normal people. And we can only admire your brain and the ability to have put together this presentation. So yeah, so thank you from me, Fatima, from the Division of Research and Methodology for the Psychological Society of South Africa. Today's been really productive. The chat indicates that people have really appreciated and enjoyed the engagement with you. It wasn't really like PowerPoint, very stagnant. It was very engaging and interactive, and you showed us how to actually go in between these various screens, SPSS, and then Excel, and what you should do. So it's been very useful. So from myself and the DRM and all the people today, thank you so much. Have a wonderful year further. And thank you to all the people attending today. We appreciate your attendance, and everybody, I hope you have a great day further.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Fatima. Just the last word from our side.
No
I'm looking
problem.
forward to taking questions from people via email.
Oh, okay.
All right.
The email address is efouten@ru.ac.za. Please,
Yes.
you can engage with Mr. Fouten on whatever quantitative questions you do have.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank you.
Fatima. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
teacher. Bye.
Bye.